for joining me today. My name is Miss Jessica Washington. I am known as Miss Jessie for a lot of the work that I do. And today I am going to explain how we complete our attainment worksheets for our KHDA inspection. This video is very important because there is a formula on how you are supposed to do attainment ratings and progress ratings. We're focused on attainment for today. Now, this formula must be followed, and it's the same way that inspectors will come and review how work is being done on your campus and how they will come up with their determination on your rating for student achievement or your 1.1. Before we get started with the worksheet, I'm going to show you first the framework, because the framework tells us everything. You simply can go to the framework or get the framework by typing in KHDA Framework, and it's about 130 pages. Now, in the framework, it talks a lot about all of the things you need to know for the CEF, but it gives a guideline for those expectations. Here is the cover of the framework, and then I'm going to move quickly to page 19. So if you have your framework, please come with me. Page 19 gives us the 6 level scales of how everything is rated. And if you notice, the language matches. KHDA ensures that all of the language matches. So this is what the definition of outstanding is. Very good, good, acceptable, weak, and very weak. Now, looking at good, the quality of performance meets the expectation of the UAE. And good is expected for every school in the UAE. So we really focus on trying to make sure that our school is good or better. A lot of schools have been acceptable in the past and working very hard to meet the vision in order for them to be good. Now, we're going to go back and focus on page 20 for a quick second because this is very important. It's consistency in quantitative terms, which means in your conversations with inspectors, if you're talking or if you even put in your CEF, hey, almost all of our students are achieving at grade level. The word almost all directly quantitates towards 90%. So while you might use the word almost all, inspectors are going to hear 90% and they're going to do their inspection based upon that number. So all of this information is important. If I say majority of our students are at or above, passing above the expectation level, we're talking about 50% to 60%. This is very important when it comes to scripting out and writing your CEF, and it becomes very important in communicating with inspectors that these words are not misconstrued. I'm going to show you page 24, but on my screen it is turned to the side. Page 24 is when we start talking about attainment, and it gives strong descriptors on what a good looks like versus acceptable. Once again, here's your word, good. The majority of students attain levels that are above curriculum standards. Pay attention to that. We just learned that majority means 50%. Students attain levels that are above. It doesn't say at. At curriculum standards means they're attaining it, but above is a different tier. And so when you're good, you have to have 50% or more achieving at the tier 2 or the second table level. Well, this is important, but let me go to the worksheet to explain to you what that really means. So this is a worksheet that I've created for my team on how to do attainment so we can get the numbers and make sure everything's okay. Here is the KHDA formulas as of 2020 of determining the rating for attainment. Acceptable means 75% of the students passed at a 67%. I'm coming back to this. Now, when I talk about 1.1, it's attainment as measured against the authorized license and curriculum standards. What does that mean exactly? Licensed curriculum standards is if you're on an American curriculum, if you're on UK curriculum, if you're on Indian curriculum, whichever curriculum that has been licensed and authorized by whatever nation or government that you're using. How did the students do against those curriculum standards? The only thing that can measure this is your internal exams. Let's slow down. Not all of them. You're to use your end of year exams. That means you're looking at all of the standards that have been taught throughout the year, not just for the last 2 or 3 months, throughout the year. That is the purpose of an end of year exam. And then if it's done correctly, that end of year exam should be aligned directly to curriculum standards. When it's aligned directly to curriculum standards, that makes that what you're using for 1.1, it means it's valid. And inspectors will come in and check the test to ensure that those assessments are aligned to curriculum standards, are at the appropriate verb level of that curriculum, and actually valid and fair. It's not a fill in the blank test. It's not a true and false. It's not a matching. It is an actual exam that can be utilized against the curriculum standards. That's why the end of term is what is used. Not end of term, I'm sorry. That's why the end of year is what is used. Now, the first measurement is acceptable is the number of students who tested at 67% or better. Remember when I said we're coming back to this formula? Well, I'm going to scroll down to the table. I'm going to sit here and put in the information for math. And I'm going to say grade 3. And I'm going to look at the number of students that were assessed. In this case, I will go with 100. The number of students that is at the minimum, that is your acceptable rate. That number is 67%. How many students tested at 67% or better? I am going to put that 85%, 85 students out of 100 tested at 67% or better. Now, this number becomes your fraction, and is what percentage is that? Well, in this case, 85% of my students tested at 67% or better. That goes back up to 75% of students at 67%. I've hit acceptable. Now I must go to the next tier. How many students tested above expectations? When I look at that, my above expectation number is 77%. I go back and look at the number of students, and let me say here, I had 60 who did 77% or better. So then I go ahead and look at that percentage, which is 60%. Now I'm able to come up with my judgment. If I had 80%, we hit acceptable, but now I have 60%. Where does 60% fall? 60% falls at good. Why? 61% would have been very good. And sometimes, depending on your test, you can nudge it up just a little bit, but those are your measurements. So for sakes, I'm going to put good. I would change this around for something totally different if you talk to me. So let's do another one. I'm going to go math again, grade 4. I'm going to put number of students assessed. I'm going to go with the number 90, and then I'm going to put 90%, and then I'm going to put how many students are at above. I'm going to put 55%. What would that rating be? And then I'm going to go math, 5, 100. I'm going to go with 90 again. I'm going to go 90%. I'm going to go with 82, and then 82%. So what would these two ratings would be? Let's go back and look. Good job. We should have a good, and we're going to have an outstanding. So now, if these were my only grades in my phase, I would be able to look to see what was my overall judgment. In this case, my overall judgment is good. Now, remember when I said this one is one that can be moved around? While this is good, this is very close to very good, and this is outstanding. So I can take my overall judgment from good to very good because this one was so close to being very good, and now my judgment for my phase could be very good because my outstanding was so high. Now, you do have to do the same thing for Emirati students, pulling the same information just for the Emirati student data and getting the judgment that way. Now, 1.12 deals with MAP testing exams because it's measured against national and appropriate international standards. If you take MAP testing, if you're American curriculum, this is what you use. If you use something else, if you're UK, I don't know your test, but this is the data you use, and you use the same formula. Now, you will use PISA and TIMSS if you have that information here as well. Now, 1.13, I'll walk through this real quick. It's the same process of inputting your information in, and I have a video that describes this in detail. 1.13 is knowledge, skills, and understanding, especially in key subjects. This is when you take your classroom data and observations, but remember, you're keeping it data, so this is not what you see, it's what you can prove. You evaluate it. You have exit tickets that prove this. You have summative exams that prove this. You have those things. For our case, we use our summative exams, and we use the exact same formula, and we get our overall ratings because this is about attainment. There is nothing here about growth. It's what students are attaining at. So even if you use exit tickets, you still have to make it quantitative. Did they pass it or did they not pass it? Did they pass it at 67%? Did they pass it at 77%? How do you know? So that's what our team uses. We use our summative exams to show that we are hitting attainment at different points of the school year in our key subjects. Then you have your trends in attainment over time, and you use your MAP data for the last 3 years, and then you use your internal data from the end of year exams for the last 3 years, and you're basically looking at your trends, utilizing, you guessed it, the same exact formula. That is the breakdown on how to do KHDA attainment for SEF. You use this worksheet, and if you want this worksheet, please join us at A Million Minds. All of that is posted there for you to be able to utilize. You can also comment below and reach out to me. But this is the information on how to score your attainment for your school, for your department, because this is done for each department, and exactly how it should look like, and the formula is not a negotiable. This is what KHDA expects. This is how they come in. This is how they review what you're doing for your school and how the rating should be for attainment. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you followed along and paid attention, and this information was very resourceful for you. Once again, my name is Miss Jessie, and I can't wait to be able to talk to you some more and help you out in the future. Thank you so much.